This is mainly, I think that she wrote this just now because she wrote it yesterday. Because after a poll was taken, it showed that Iowans wouldn't care that much or would at least approve of more cuts to state universities if there needed to be cuts. That was one of the type of cuts that they really approved of. Do you guys think a consolidation of the administrative staffs of all three universities would be a good idea in general?
Absolutely not. These are three separate schools. We don't need to have the same administration for all three schools. If you want to go to Iowa, go to Iowa. If you want to go to UNI, go to UNI. If you want to go to Iowa State, go to Iowa State.
Don't go to Iowa State.
Well,
okay, I'm just kidding.
go to Iowa. But you don't need to have the same staff for all these schools. You want a wide variety of schooling and administration in the state. You don't want to have just one administrative staff.
No, I agree entirely. That the idea that was even suggested as a rational, logical thing to do just blows my mind. There are three separate universities, each focusing in different aspects. You can't have one administrator run the whole thing. I mean, each school is geared to a certain audience, not necessarily audience, but geared to a certain set of people for their programs and what the campus offers. And the idea that you could have a group or a consortium of people to run three huge universities is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, what do they even think why one administrative group can handle all three universities?
Well, her argument was that they would not lose their identities. I mean, they would remain three separate universities. And that although completely changing the administrative staff might be a little too drastic to, have one university president who oversaw everything, would be a little too drastic, that payroll and simple things like that could be handled by one staff in the Capitol.
See, I mean, I guess that makes sense, but I just think that in this case, the
I would support that. I would support getting rid of rid of each university's accountants, not consolidating everything, but getting rid of some of the bureaucrats because they could handle that. I believe that you could have fewer bureaucrats that could handle all the university's payrolls.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's great. I mean, I think in this case the non-financial factors outweigh the financial factors because, I mean, if you're going to make an administrative policy, you have to make sure that it gets worked into all three universities, which are completely different cultures, completely different atmospheres, completely different student populations, and you can't make a huge policy for that many distinct people. I just don't see that working out very well.
Yeah, I would agree. All right. Well, it's time for a beloved Grant spot. So we'll play you one of those and then a song.
Welcome back to Informavores. We're going to toss it over to Ryan Jones for our next article.
All right. President Obama met with Japan's Emperor Akihito.
There you go.
Over the weekend. And some conservative commentators seized on Barack Obama saying that he was bowing and groveling. So what do you guys think? Looking at the picture, do you think President Obama was groveling?
It was so overblown. It was so overblown by the media. I mean, he bowed. I know that that's not normal for an American president to do, but he was just trying to show respect, just kind of abide by the culture. Who really cares?
I mean, I'll be the first to admit that I give this administration a hard time on a lot of things, but in this case, they were just trying to be polite. And it's not like it's a big deal. I don't think it is. And who is this? Andrew Malcolm in a blog for the Los Angeles Times is making this a huge stink. Who the heck is this guy? It's not even the figureheads. It's not Rush. It's not Beck. It's not O'Reilly making these things. It's these little guys that are just trying to get in the news.
I'm going to have to take the opposite stance on that. Obama does not need to show the world a picture of him bowing to another world leader.
I think it was a sign of respect. I think he's out there trying to repair things.
Say it. I know you're gonna say it.
No.
Say it.
Image. Well, our image is not good right now, and it has to do when it comes to East Asia. It does matter because these are trade partners, the Japanese, who actually are the only country who have a higher deficit than we do. And I guess England's up there too, but I don't know where exactly they land. But I know Japan is just ridiculously worse than us, but they buy our debt, and then the Chinese buy our debt. We need to show some form of respect because we can't do it in any other way. Why not?
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think it's that big of a deal.
My problem is these conservatives that are just going ridiculous over it. But former President Richard Nixon, who we all remember was a Republican, can be seen in a photo in Life magazine from 1971 bowing to Akihito's father, Hirohito, who ruled Japan during the Pearl Harbor attacks. If he can bow to the guy that was the emperor during Pearl Harbor, I'm pretty sure Barack can bow to this guy. I mean, it's a cultural thing in East Asia. I mean, it is respect and honor are huge, huge things over there. And I think that he was just trying to put himself out there and saying, look, I'm here to cooperate with you, and we're going to be civil about this. I mean, I don't think it was a power show. I mean, everyone always thinks when there's two figures of a country, it's always a power show. And I just think that people look way too far into that.
But in these hard times, the world needs to see the President of the United States taking a hard stand and be shown as a leader. He doesn't need to be shown bowing to another leader.
I'm sure the guy bowed right back. We just don't hear about it.
Well, he kind of dips. I've seen the footage. He kind of dips, but not really.
Well, he's the emperor.
He wouldn't bow, exactly. He's not going to bow down to. In his mind, he wouldn't bow down to the President of the United States because he's the emperor.
He's the emperor of the place where they are, and in that culture, elderly people are considered almost only.
I think the bigger
almost
part,
godly.
Even,
there it is.
So
wow.
Obama should take a bow while the emperor should only take a little dip.
I don't.
He's
I mean,
old. He probably can't bend over that far. Do you want the guy to break his hip?
I think we're gonna
Show
move on.
respect.
We're gonna move on.
All right.
I know that we're different. Before we do, I know that we're different because, for instance, the U.S. never bows its flag in the Olympics to whatever foreign leaders, while other countries do that too, and we don't do that. But I just think this is overblown, and who cares?
Yeah. All right. So Johnson County residents are calling for a special election. After I think it was a tie or something like that, the Johnson County supervisor was appointed by a 3-person committee. Now,
The person actually died.
oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Then they had an open spot.
Okay, so a group of a 3-person committee, which included the auditor, the treasurer, and the recorder, decided that they could just somehow get together and put a guy there. So there was a petition organized, and it had 8,147 signatures, but only 7,810 were valid. But that's enough to force them to do a special election. So, do you guys think that this should have been in the first place? First of all, should they do the election, or should they just stick with the person they appointed?
I think they should do the election. People sign the petition. The people are saying we want to vote for him. So why shouldn't we have a public vote of who we want on this?
I disagree. I think it's okay if it's appointed by some kind of committee or something like that, because when it comes to deaths, when it comes to early office, people leaving, it can get really complicated. When it comes to, you have to do all the expense of doing a whole nother election while they're not going to be serving out a whole term. I don't think most people could tell me what a county supervisor does. And I think that this 3-person committee would hopefully be able to pick the right person. I think it's similar. If a senator dies, the governor picks. I think it's that kind of situation.
I could agree with that. What do you guys think about the price tag? It costs $75,000 to rerun this election. Do you think having somebody who's not going to serve a full term, who's probably up for election in 2010, do you think it's worth having an election right away?
I think that's a little expensive, but that's what the people are calling for. They got the signatures that were needed. So if the people are calling for it, pay the price tag.
I agree. I mean, it's taxpayer money anyway, so they can do with what they want, I guess.
Fine. Yeah, you can win.
But the tentative date is, I think, January 19th, 2010.
An issue I do want to bring up with this, though, is the petition itself. I saw these people going out and getting signatures for a petition. They were kind of explaining the issue, but all they really wanted was for you to sign. If you go back and ask those people what they signed, I bet you a vast majority would have absolutely no idea what they signed.
I bet that's the case with a lot of petitions. They're very in your face. Sign this, sign this, sign this.
Yeah, with most.
Yeah.
Or they use some sort of enormous issue, like a broad thing. It's like,
do you want the government to pick itself?
Exactly. Yeah. Do you want power consolidated in the hands of 3 people? And it would just be how you're asked, do you support health reform? Well, that's a pretty broad question. And then sign this thing if you support it. It's like not necessarily a public option, nothing. So then conservatives can go and say, well, this many people don't support health reform. So
Right.
I think it's one of those situations. I